basically had to teach every single one of my clients how to run,
Yeah.
how to squat, right? These things are like, you think they're innate. You think they're like, people know how to do these things. Oh yeah, just go do your squat. Or hey, go jog real quick. And I'll look over and they're heel striking. And some people say that's okay. I mean, no. I don't, there's research enough to tell you that you're having braking forces
Right.
when you're heel striking. Why do you think all the shoes have these like big heels, right, to absorb the force? They're so squishy and bouncy, right? And then people when we wear them, they're like, oh, my knee pain's gone away.
Right.
Sure, but your technique is still poor.
Right.
You know, people are always like, oh, running's bad for my knees. Like, no, bad technique is bad for your
Yes,
knees.
exactly.
You know, and so
Great
I have to
point.
teach people
Great
how to
point.
run, and all of a sudden, you know, I'll like, hey, gotta lift your leg up, pretend like you're like running over hurdles, right? You
Right.
activate those hamstrings, those reflexes, those hip flexors, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, I've never felt my butt before. I've never felt my glutes activate. My glutes are actually sore from running now.
Yeah.
My core is sore from running
Right.
because they have to like lift the leg up versus just being like, you know, backside dominant. Now they have some front side mechanics. And then, like I said, you teach what you know, right?
Right.
Like, like, and I used to pull my hamstrings all the time when I did like sprints, stuff like that. Until I, you know, and I would do all the hamstring curls and Nordic curls, you know. It wasn't until I understood, like, you know, getting my core, like tucking my core and kind of getting rid of that anterior pelvic tilt, getting more front side mechanics, because I was always, you know, had too long, I overstrided. I was always pushing back. I wasn't lifting my leg up high enough. And you're not really lifting. It's like a byproduct of you, like, you know, pushing into the ground and attacking like a piston versus
Right,
like
right.
a swing set, right?
Makes sense.
Once I started understanding that, then I could attack the ground. And like, I haven't pulled my hamstring in years.
Right.
I haven't complained about like a hamstring pull in a
Right.
long time. Before, it used to be like all the time, to the point I was like, you know what, maybe this I guess can't sprint, you know.
Yeah.
Until I was like, no, there's something going on. And so I fixed my technique, and I think that's where some people are, you know, you see all these injuries now. Like, we have all this data, all this science on like, hey, we need to get this hamstring fired up more. We need to have this in certain ranges. You know, we need to build it in certain ranges. This is how we're going to prevent hamstrings from being pulled. Yet why there's still hamstring pulls? You know, there's studies out there, especially soccer players. There's more hamstring pulls now, but exercise science has grown. You know,
Yeah.
the field of PT has grown. All these industries have grown. So why are we still having these injuries? Are actually coming up now. And we talked about this before. I was like, I never heard about so many Achilles tears. So many,
you see it so much more
quad
now.
tendon
for
tears,
sure.
stuff like that. These tendons are very strong.
Yeah.
And yes, our athletes are stronger and, you know, faster, but, you know, we've seen the data too. They're not that much stronger or that
Right.
much faster.
Right, yeah.
Right. We've seen that. It's like
In
maybe
proportion to their level of strength
Yeah.
they've gained,
maybe, you know,
yeah.
like they did the track and field study was like, you know, actually it was maybe the surface that wasn't
Yeah.
as good, or
Yeah.
the cleats, whatever,
Right.
like the technology wasn't as good.
Yeah.
They're not that much faster.
Right.
But why are we getting more injuries?
Right.
You know, and so that's where
When I
think,
took my athletic training classes, literally probably about 20 years ago, the discussion on Achilles ruptures
Mm-hmm.
was so minimal because it was so rare and fluky. Now it's like, you know, you see it every week almost. And what have we been pushing more and more? We've been pushing more mobility. And what's the result of this? It's more tears, more ruptures, more non-contact
you'll
injuries.
hear those Achilles tears with like the weekend warriors that go play softball,
Yeah.
right? The ones that are not trained.
Yeah.
It's a whole another topic when you have trained athletes,
Yeah.
and they're starting to rip their tendons.
Yeah, exactly.
Because then who's safe from it?
Yeah.
Right. And so I think, you know, there's been a little bit of a renaissance of like this old school style training. People are like, hey, look at these guys back in the day.
Yeah, yeah.
They jumped around, they did this
Sure,
stuff.
Yeah,
Nothing-
you see
nothing-
that on Instagram a
Nothing
lot.
fancy, right? And
Exactly.
there is like science is important, technology is important. Like that's how we push things, you know, forward. But what if we're asking the wrong questions?
Yeah.
What if we're looking down the wrong path? You know, what if we have to, you know, take a step back in order to move forward?
Yeah.
And that's why, like, you know, you can get down this rabbit hole, and all of a sudden, all these recovery methods are like this, you know, everyone has to recover. If you're not inflaming your body all the time, if you're dealing with stress, if you're sleeping enough, if you're eating proper whole foods, if you're training and not breaking down your body, prioritizing technique and not volume, right? Or like, you know, my frequency, intensity, whatever. You won't be so susceptible to these injuries. Versus, you know, everyone out there is getting these you know, especially from like different pundits or opinions out there, because now social media is everywhere, right? So we're able to look at, hey, low back pain, click on the hashtag, all these
Yes.
people come up.
Yes.
And the people with the best, you know, marketing, the best social media will probably be up there.
Yes.
Right.
Sure.
And
Great
so
point.
we're starting to lose out on, I guess, authority, because now everyone has a voice.
Right.
And that's okay. That's fine. Especially if you believe in what you believe. But we need to have I always say we have to have like harder tests.
Yeah.
Like CSCS, NASM, whatever.
Yeah.
We need to have more standards in the industry to where you don't have these people who are coming in as a hobby, because this stuff is actually kind of dangerous.
Yeah.
Weightlifting can be the best thing ever happen, and actually it is. Actually, the research is starting to prove that, right?
Yeah.
The more muscle you have, the better your bone density, the better your hormone regulation. I mean, everything, right? Fat loss,
Yeah.
whatever. But it all can also be the worst thing that can happen to you.
Yeah.
And I see it all the
sure.
time. These people are in the gym just like wrecking their bodies every
Yeah.
day, not knowing, thinking they're doing something good. When in the end, they're actually going to get an impingement in their shoulder or get a frozen shoulder because of how their posture, they're reinforcing that posture.
Yeah.
And they're doing these stretches and thinking and we talked about this too. I'm not against stretching. I'm against passive techniques.
Yeah.
I like active stretching, right?
Exactly.
Activating certain muscles in RDL
Right.
versus sitting there, putting your leg on a table and stretching that leg
Right.
out. Because we know that type of passive stretching isn't really stretching the muscle body.
Yeah.
You're starting to stretch the connective tissue.
Yeah.
And that's where your body starts to say, I don't like that stretch. I'm going to guard. I'm going to tighten up that muscle because I feel instability.
Yeah.
Like I said, when you roll your ankle and your body feels instability, it'll guard. It'll tighten up. It'll make your body loose, and it'll seize up that ankle. But when you're starting to stretch and reciprocal inhibition and all these things, you're not getting what you need to get out of it. You're just getting more instability in your joints. Versus when we stretch, we do RDLs for a hamster. We don't bend over and touch your toes. I can touch my toes.
Yeah.
I used to not be able to touch my toes. I stretched every day in high school to try to touch my toes. I could not get past my shins. Stopped stretching for 15 years. I can touch the ground now with my hands.
Because you just train an optimal range of motion when you do your hinges.
Right, exactly. And I'm actually stretching the muscle body out,
Yeah,
right? Because
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
activating, I'm bracing, I'm engaging, and that muscle tugs on the on the tendons too. But it's about activating the motor units in the muscles to create that stretch, making it more of a rubber band than like a plank of wood.
Exactly. Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you like this video, check out this other one. I think you'll find it just as informative.